Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Vidyavanam, firstly, for giving me this honor and the privilege to be in conversation with this very eminent panel. Um, I'd like to first say that the beauty of this panel, and kudos to the people who put this together, is that all of them are obviously artists, rooted in the arts, but also they engage with their arts very, very differently. An academic who uses the visual arts as a lens to look at self and society, as a torch bearer of a legacy and committed to its continuity. Arts as a form of expression, activism, and empowerment. Arts as a way to tell stories that allow us to think about the world that we live in. In this discussion, I think Dharani was also asking me this question. In this discussion, really what we attempt to do is to really reiterate why the fine arts are imperative to a child's educational journey right from the start, but also how the arts are not merely just an addition to the whole, but also a system of education in itself, really allowing the learner the possibility to understand themselves and the ways of the world better with clarity, thought, and conviction. I just thought, as a warm up for this conversation, I'd ask each of you, Vasudhaji, perhaps you could begin with one word that comes to your mind when you think about why you believe the study and the learning of the fine arts is crucial to the holistic development of a child.
I think it would be very difficult to answer this question in one word, so I'll take a few more. Well, I think the separation of art and life is an artificial one in any case, and it never should have happened because art, in some form or the other, has been a part of every household since centuries. And now that the rupture has occurred, we are trying to bring it back into our lives in a kind of an objectified manner as a specialization, which brings about its own problems. So it's like a very complex subject. And we have to now recreate a common ground, which allows it to have some relevance to our lives.
Thank you for that. Samandam sir, would you like to say something? Dharani, if you can just ஒரு வார்த்தை ஒரு வேர்ட்ல முடிஞ்சதுன்னா இல்லனா அவங்கள மாதிரி why do you believe that the arts has what is the key sort of a takeaway for a child from an education perspective of the fine arts? கலை எதுக்கு முக்கியம்?
இப்போ என்னை எடுத்துக்கணும். இதுக்கு நான் 8வது வரைக்கும் தான் படிச்சிருக்கேன். 8வது வரைக்கும் படிச்சிருக்கும்போது கூத்தில் வரும்போது தான் இயல், இசை, நாடகத்தை பற்றி தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறேன். இயல்னா இப்போ ஒரு சொல்கிறாங்க அருணனை கண்டு உடனே கட்டிக்காரங்க அருண்னா என்னங்க? ஆதித்தன், தினகரன், திவாகரன், பன்னீர்பகாய், எல்லை மார்த்தான், இப்படி சொல்லிட்டு போகுது. இயல் வருதாங்க. அப்புறம் இசை, பாட்டு பாடும்போது இசை வருது. அப்புறம் நடிக்கும் போது இது வருது. இது எல்லாம் வரும்போது ஒரு மனுஷனுக்கு அந்த இது கற்பனை இதெல்லாம் வளருது. அதுதான் அது.
ஓகே, இமேஜினேஷன். ஓகே.
So our master is just past 8th standard, but he learned the language and other things through practicing this art form, Terukuthu, because the Tamil language is classified into 3, which is Iyal, Isai, Nadagam. So all these 3 are all inside this form Kuthu. So through Kuthu he learned so many attributes about the language, history and literature, and also he also started to know what is imagination. The very important word that he coined was imagination. It started there by practicing Kuthu.
Thank you. Sangeeta, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I think there are so many things which come into mind when you say art, but I'm sure we'll discuss all that later, but I think I want to touch upon mental health, which again seems to be the need of the hour today. We talk about that a lot. So I think when I say mental health in a broad way, I think art aids expression, which is something which is so, washed over when you look at other subjects, and when you are, most schools are all about competitiveness and, the peer pressure and all that. So I think art gives a lot of room for expression for a kid.
That's a great point. We will definitely come back to that.
Okay, yeah, there are many things in this, but I would like to just say only two things which I think right now it is coming into me, is that one is understanding the self, and it's partly also making of an human.
Thank you for that. Different ideas. And this morning I was really thinking about how in the context of the arts, there is structure and there is free play. So this morning I was thinking about the whole notion of free play, and something that's completely lost, especially amongst urban children. There is just no concept of free play anymore. So really I just wanted to ask each of you to speak a little bit about how this concept of framework and free play, that, the teaching of the arts really empowers a student, and why do you need both, in a sense?
Yeah, I think here it's kind of useful to talk about it in terms of biological and synthetic time. The time that we have created in terms of the compartmentalizations and structures that we have created in education and in every aspect of our lives is what would come under synthetic time, whereas biological time allows for free play and a sense of connectedness to one's own impulses and lives. So life. So yeah, and then how? Can you come again with that?
How do you think? Why do you think that
Yes.
both the idea of framework and free play, which the arts anyway has in its very, very premise,
Yeah.
why is it really especially useful for a child? And
Yeah,
therefore,
no, it's absolutely useful because the very nature of its being biological. But the problem is that even when we do introduce art into curriculums, we are expecting it to kind of go according to the rules of general, academia, which are not really applicable. So however well-intentioned we might be in trying to kind of reintroduce this element of free play, there is a problem, but it's hugely important for the same reason that Sangeeta had also pointed out. Mental health, a sense of self, a sense of one's own growth, one's position, one's, vision of the world. I mean, these are things that need to develop, along the way. So, yeah, it's totally important, but whether we're achieving it or not is a different question. Yeah.
இது ஒரு பாத்திரமாக இருக்கிறான், அதே சமயத்தில் அவனவாகவும் இருக்கணும். அது எப்படின்னாக்கா, அவன் ஒரு துச்சாதனன் நான் போய் திரௌபதி இட்டுன்னு வர போகிறேன் அப்படின்றான். உடனே அவன் கட்டியக்காரன், என்ன வராதுங்க நான் எனக்குன்னா அப்படின்வான். அப்போ அவன் அந்த உச்சத்தில் இருக்கிற அந்த பாத்திரம் உடனே கீழே வந்துடுது. அவன் தன்னை தயார்படுத்திட்டு மறுபடியும் வரணும். அதுதான் அந்த உடஞ்சி இது வர்றது. அதே மாதிரி யூனிவர்சிட்டியில் போயிட்டு நான் சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கும்போது, துச்சாதன வேஷம் போட்ட அந்த நடிகை ரிகல்ச்சரல் போது துயில் உரிறான், எல்லாத்தையும் முடிச்சுட்டான். அதுக்கப்புறம் அவனுக்கு சுய நினைவு வர முடியல. அப்படியே அந்த இதுலேயே இருக்கிறான், அவன் அதுலேயே இருக்கான். அப்புறம் ஹாஸ்பிட்டல் கிட்ட போயிட்டு இதெல்லாம் பண்ணி இதெல்லாம் பண்ணாங்க. அப்புறம் மறுநாள் நான் என்ன பண்ணேன், சரி இதுக்கு ஒரு இது பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லிவிட்டு திரௌபதி அழைக்க போகிறோம் பாருங்க. போகும்போது கையில் ஒரு தாமல் தட்டு கொடுத்து கல்புரத்தி ஏற்றி வச்சுட்டு பாட்டு பாடு நாங்கள் பாடினோம். அப்படியே அதை ரிலாக்ஸ் ஆகிட்டா அப்புறம் போன பிறகு இதுவாகிடுச்சு.
It's a very interesting story. You want to translate that, Tarini?
It's basically how the actor prepares before the play and how he is on the stage and how he have to play in that thin line. That's what he was trying to explaining about one of his experience in NSD. One of the students was, he's almost got into the trance, So he was almost got into the trance when he was playing Duchasna. So at that time, so how to not to go reach that stage, and you have to be play free actually in that time, not actually taking that character. So next day he showed how to be relaxed on that time, where the other people will start to sing the song, and the actor who's doing the character will calm down. Then he'll go back again to the uh, play.
So you're saying basically the character became like he inhabited that character in a way that the character became second skin. Is that what
So
you're trying to say?
he's trying to say the actor don't have to go to that extent. He have to play in between in the thin line. So there he can find that freeness, like how he can play well in that on the place.
Sangeeta, do you want to respond? In the context of Carnatic music, there is framework, and then there is, the student is allowed free play. There is imagination, creativity, room for, improv and all that, right? And why do you think these aspects are crucial for, in the context of a student studying the fine arts, and how do these qualities really shape a human as well? Just from your experience of teaching and also as a student learning the arts as well as teaching the arts.
Yeah, I think like Vasudha also was right saying that I'm just taking off from what she said. It's very important that the arts do play a very important role in shaping a child, and I think from my genre, from the angle of Carnatic music, what I have observed is very interesting. Actually, in fact, it's many people think it's a very rigid. I mean, it's truly rigid. It's scary. It actually scares off many people. Carnatic music, you, எனக்கு ஒன்றும் புரியாதுப்பா அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவா. So I don't understand. It's too complicated. But like you said, there's a lot of room for improvisation once you get into it and you start learning it as a serious student. So I think here I also can I just digress a bit and talk about how the arts sadly are also not seen as a serious subject like anything else, like a physics or a math, or that's what you originally said also. So this is where you get into this whole thing of structure, free play. Structure and free play seems very superficial if you're talking from a superficial angle, right? Like, for example, they have art classes in schools, but it's like some vague thing which happens, like extracurricular something. Though after school, 1-2
take a break
of,
kind of,
it's not seen as a serious kind of learning. So I think it starts from there. So I can talk from my journey as a serious student of art for the last 30 years or 40 years, where I see it's fascinating for me that I work with lot of conditions. For example, or ragam paadnamna, so if I start singing, or if I have to go to the stage of improvising and manodharmam, the manodharmam comes actually from a lot of structure.
Exactly, yeah.
So if I have to sing a todi, I cannot just take off and do all kinds of things chumma like that. I have to know the ragam. I have to know that this rishabham is there, this gandharam is there, this the relation between the re and the ga is like this. For that, I have to learn compositions in that ragam. So there is a very structured kind of learning which is taking place, which leads then to this. So there is a whole process happening.
Serious structured learning.
So I think that with relevance to schools again, because since we're talking about school education, so I think this kind of outlook is, I think, needed because I don't think it exists in all kinds of schools, even in the so-called urban schools where they supposedly have classes. I don't know. That's also. I think we should come to that later. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Abhilash.
I think I'll just take 2-3 minutes to just to because I would like to say this from my own context in terms of when I was a child, because I was a child of my parents who were central government employees, so transferable job all over India, born in North India in Rajasthan, and then keep moving. So there were many things which were contradictory, like in home the sambar and the smell of that, and when you move out you have dal or samosas, and the attire is different. So contradictions, diversity, and also then education, which is CBSE board, which keeps all these things away and just keeps teaching you the periods which are all in a way they are segmented. So these things were regularly happening, and also then you are exposed in every state by all different cultural programs, like from Manipuri dance to Kathak dance to Kathakali to Kudiyatam to Teyyam. So there were also many different factors which were coming into. But education, in a way, education was not. The so-called education in the school was not addressing many of these things, even though it was happening around completely. So probably these were the things which were then later when we come into theater. Then we see that all these things are getting connected also. That's why I was saying self and there is a play in it. Because then you start discovering your own self, then you can find out there are many layered. Self by itself is a huge material which can have many plays around or many scripts around. And so then self becomes part of you and you keep discovering self in the whole process. At the same time, what you also discover are all these senses, the 5 senses which we have in our body, which is about smell, which is about touch. These are things which are not addressed that strongly in the curriculum itself. And that's how we bring in games, and then we see the blind game or the smell game, and then how do we bring that into classrooms? Like, how do we bring into, because recently we did a workshop of TI, that is Theatre in Education or Drama in Education, and there was this teacher who was telling, I think 8th standard, the reproduction chapter is really difficult to teach that age. And this TI expert, like our students were the one who were trying to do School of Drama students, and they could do it because there was blind game through which, and then the students started imitating the doctor, and then there was a girl who was coming as pregnant, and then it was very nice. After a point, a boy became pregnant and came and they understand the whole what is the process of it. So this is how I think the senses, the 5 senses which are there, is the place where you can actually give the time and the freedom of playing. At the same time, it can be structured later. This is what
point. Also to really use theatre as a tool, and in a way that it also becomes part of the entire learning process itself. So thank you for that. Vasudha, I was going to ask you a little bit about, I was working closely with the liberal arts university, and you work with Shiv Nadar. So I want to ask you a little bit about, in the context of liberal education, we're constantly talking about, at least in Kriya, one of their mission lines was really to, in a world which is so complex and so unpredictable, how do you really use liberal education, and how do you use, a student of history to look at something which is, through their lens, look at a scientific problem through the lens of history, an artist to look at. I just want for you to tell me a little bit about, as an academic, looking at it through the lens of the arts, and that's what you've been teaching your students. Could you tell us a bit about why that is really, really important? Of course, we're not talking about school level, but it's at a more university level. But if you can tell us how that really helps students understand the complexities of the world that we are in.
If I were to go into this at depth, I would have to sort of refer to the images, but then to kind of put it very briefly, I think, talking about the liberal arts and the introduction of the fine arts into that spectrum of, into that space, it performs a very crucial function because, all communication today outside of domestic spaces is in the form of images. It's oral as well, online, in, like media, etc., etc. And if one does not develop the criticality and the discrimination to understand the kind of subtexts that are encoded into the information that you're being fed, then you are giving up that space to advertising, media, and propaganda. I think that is a very real danger. And so this is something and it is only education that incorporates the study and the reading of images and of sound and of action in different ways that can actually address the problems of society and in a sense kind of ensure our survival as a race on the planet, you know. So it has far-reaching consequences. But again, I'll have to, you know, this is a very general kind of
Maybe we
statement.
could just finish this
Yeah.
round and then you could
Sure.
perhaps take us through that.
Yeah.
But I just want to, we could do it now? Okay, maybe you can take us through the images now, but I had one counter question to what you just said. Yeah, yeah. And I just wanted to ask you, you talked about, you know, everything is so visual and, you know, it's important to have discretion.
Yeah.
I just want to, I also thought about this word discernment. And I want to understand from you, how do you all, as teachers of the arts, really, right from a very young age, help your students cultivate and nurture this sense of discernment? And I think all of you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, here actually I take my students out of the classroom to answer his question. Yeah, I really believe in that. You know, there is a significant amount of reading and, you know, secondary forms of research that support the entire process. But for me, primary research is the main thing. I mean, whether you are training to be a scholar or a professional in any field, I think the fact of being able to respond to your environment and to understand what is happening in your immediate vicinity is completely essential, you know? So, to come back to... Yeah, so that is what discernment is all about. And again, I mean, I flesh it out in the way that I conduct my classes. I take them out, we sort of study certain sites. And these sites, again, somebody else also mentioned locality, the local. And I think that's very important because, again, with the destruction of shared cultures and shared understandings, you know, location provides us with a common ground that we can all be a part of, and it immediately pulls in a kind of an audience that would be tuned into what you're saying. So it's not, you know, like a curriculum that is introduced, an abstract notion of a curriculum that is introduced in a kind of a very general way, you know, across different mindsets and, you know, but it's really responding to the environment and what is happening in the immediate vicinity while touching upon relationships with other places and,
Right. So what
you
I'm
know,
hearing
events.
is,
Yeah.
so there's a sort of physicality and there's a sort of a sensorial experience to the whole thing to
Yes.
really, okay.
Yeah, the sensorial, as you were, because, you know,
Yeah, he mentioned
every,
that, yeah.
the five senses that you mentioned, I mean, each sense carries its own intelligence, you know? I mean, it's the sight of a different form of intelligence, and what we are harnessing is just one fraction of this intelligence that we possess, actually. So that's a huge issue, you
Right,
know,
right.
in education. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Vasudha. Samanam sir, yeah. Ninga, you want to? Okay, sorry. Sangeeta, do you want to respond? Yeah, by the time. Yeah.
So I'll talk from Carnatic
course,
music.
absolutely.
I mean, overlapping bit of what I said earlier also, something similar to that. Because again, when we train children, right, when they come to learn from us, and I'm assuming that, you know, I'm talking about serious students who want to take it forward for, you know, a long time and probably become, you know, themselves performers or, you know, true students of art. So again, the same thing of, for example, I as a teacher tell them, don't go and listen to everything, first of all. And also with the, like she said, with so much information available in the YouTube and everything, you click and, you know, I take one song and I have like 10 artists singing that song. So don't go and listen to all these 10 artists first. Okay. First learn your lessons from me, because you have come, I expect you, I believe that you have come to me as a student because you think that I have something good to give you, valuable to offer. So I want you to respect that first in the beginning. I'm talking about the really beginning stages.
Absolutely.
So that whole rigor of learning, ஒரு 5 வருஷம் முறையாக கற்றுக்கோங்க முதல்ல எங்கிட்டாங்க அங்கேயும் எல்லார்ட்டையும் போய் இப்போ ஒரு பாட்டு கற்றுக்கணும்னா அந்த பாட்டு எல்லாரும் and it's very easy nowadays, you know, just go there and you just listen to the music and I can learn from the video there, I can learn from this place, I can know. And in fact, I won't even tell them to go to concerts in the beginning. Don't go to all random concerts and listen to everybody. Because at that time, you are learning to understand the form. You're trying to understand the ragas that you are learning. You have to go deeper into a Todi or a Mohanam or a Kalyani. So you learn first from me. Learn, say, 4 compositions in each ragam. And then practice them. Then go inside. And then once, when I feel that you have come to a stage where you've got the hang of it, at least, I mean, you know, this is all very intuitive, right, as a teacher. And it differs from student to student. There's no like one basic thing for rules thing for everybody, you know. So it's also the nature of the student involved, how much engaged they are, and all that we judge as a teacher. And then you start, and then you have to let go. That's also very important. Then that's the problem again with an artist. You get stuck with them and you say, no, you listen only to me. That's also dangerous. Because that's when they have to be exposed to different things. Then they have a mindset to say, okay, no, I don't like this. And then they may even end up having different views from me. For example, my own case, my style, what I learned from my teacher, but I don't sing exactly like her, which is fine. And she never said, no, don't do this, you know. That's really amazing of her. She let me do what I wanted. Like I always liked to sing much slower songs and all that. So, and that was not her style at all. But then see, as a person, you develop your own style. And so that's how the art develops, the artist develops, the person develops. I mean, I don't know, this is what you're talking about, discernment. I'm just using that. Yeah, so that's how I go about it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I would like to talk a little bit or share an experience. We have been doing this workshop for last 10, 12 years with AIMS. This is part of their orientation program where the first year when they join, and we have this 7 to 10 days workshop in Delhi. And when they come, they are so much into not to know each other, and there's this new world. It's completely different, and it's a cosmopolitan city, and they have come from all different backgrounds and with all different privileged to underprivileged to many different ways of. So you have nearly 130 students sitting there. Now what we first do is to understand each other. So sing a song, or whatever, the language you speak in your village. Let us learn each other, at least one word we can talk to, so that when we finish the workshop, we have one sentence of everybody with us. So probably these are things how we introduce and how we take them in a way, how we can take them into a journey where they are all together and then they can go further. So these are majorly it's more about understanding you first than understanding, and it's like, who is near to me today? I have to understand this person, and to whatever extent it is possible. So that's the beginning, and then we go slowly one by one step. That's how we go for it. That's what.
முதல்ல தெருக்கூத்துக்கு ஸ்கூலே கிடையாது. முதல்ல நாங்கள் 2007 தான் நான் வந்து ஸ்கூல் அதை பள்ளி ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். செக் 2007 தான் வந்து நான் தெருக்கூத்துக்கு ஒரு பள்ளிக்கூடம் ஆரம்பிக்கிறேன். அப்போ வந்து எங்கள் ஊரில் இருக்கிற படிக்கிற மாணவர்கள் வந்து மற்றவங்களுக்கு யாருக்குன்னா கூத்து சொல்லி தரும்போது வந்து பார்ப்பாங்க. பார்த்துட்டு அப்படியே வந்துன்னே இருந்தானுங்க. அப்புறம் அவங்களுக்கு அதில் மேலே ஒரு இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் வந்துடுச்சு. அவங்க வந்து அப்போ வந்து 7வது 6வது 8வது படிக்கிற மாணவர்கள். அப்புறம் அவனுக்கு வந்து +2 முடிச்சுட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து வேறு படிப்பெல்லாம் படிச்சுக்கிட்டு கூத்தே கற்றுக்கிட்டு இப்போ முழு நேர கூத்து கலைஞராக இருக்காங்க என்கிட்ட. அதில் ஒருத்தர் அது அங்கே உட்காந்துருக்காரு, பிரகாஷ். அவர் எலக்ட்ரிஷியன் படிச்சிருக்காரு. அவர் வந்து இப்போது மெயினான இதெல்லாம் ஆண் வேஷங்கள் ஆடுறாரு. ஆமாம். அப்போ வந்து நான் என்ன சொல்லி தருவேன்னா, கூத்துக்குன்னு ஒரு இது இருக்குது, அடவு எப்படி போடணும், பாடல் எப்படி பாடணும் என்னான்னு அதை முதல்ல கற்றுக்குங்க. அதை கற்றுக்கிட்டு அதுக்கப்புறம் நீங்கள் எப்படி ஒன்றாலுமா இது பண்ணுங்க. ஏன்னா இவங்க வந்து இப்படியே தான் இருப்பாங்க. இந்த மாணவர்கள் வேறு வருவாங்க, ஒரு சினிமா இதுக்கு போகிறதுக்கு அதுக்கு அது மாதிரியெல்லாம் வருங்க. கூத்து ஒரு இது கற்றுக்கணுன்னு வருவாங்க. அப்போ நான் சொல்கிறேன், இதை முறையாக இங்கே கற்றுக்கோ, அப்புறம் போயிட்டு அதை நீ எப்படி ஒன்றா டெவலப் பண்ணி வேறு இம்ப்ரவைஸ் பண்ணி வேணும் பண்ணிக்கோ. அது மாதிரி தான் சொல்லி அனுப்பேன்.
I was going to ask Prakash a question, but we'll come back. I was curious to understand from him why he decided to like learn it full time, but we'll go to that later. I just wanted to understand in the context of, school. I think we talked about school, and I was just thinking that even in the school that my son studies in, only once every year the arts really features. It is like literally there is an annual day, and suddenly all children are supposed to go out there and dance and sing and do drama and all that. And so many schools don't even have, like you said, Sankita, rightly, that it's not taken seriously. It is just by the way. There is one subject once a week as a sort of a watered down version of the arts. I really want to understand from each of you, if we were to actually include it at a school level, what should be done? What is the need of the hour? Do we need more serious practitioners who are teachers, who are invested in it? Do we need to think about new, pedagogical modules where we are actually like trying to incorporate it with the curriculum? Like, what is the need of the hour? How can we actually make it not as exclusive in I don't mean in a positive way, but excluding it in a certain way? How can we really make it inclusive in the way that that it truly embraces the fine arts? Would you like to?
It's
I think I was loud, so.
yeah. So how? Well, it's a question of whether the administration values that inclusion or not. And if it doesn't, then we can't go very far with it. I mean, we go in with the best of intentions, but then our actions are limited. So, but I think also the fact that the increasing corporatization of education, the privatization of education, and where art becomes just a kind of a means of providing a sort of like a visibility for the institution, which is again to do with the market, and therefore it begins to limit the scope of art practice very, very severely. So I really wouldn't know how to overcome. I mean, there are like there are schools like the Krishnamurti schools and stuff where it's like really. Do we have more of those schools, or are they kind of diminishing in numbers? That also I'm not quite aware of,
So when you think at the university level,
Yeah.
for example, the Department of Art, Chitnada, do you
Yeah.
think things are changing at the university level?
They are, because they're following the so-called American model of education where, and we are beginning to incorporate art departments in universities, at private universities, almost. I mean, Ashoka has one, we have a full-fledged master's program. So that is beginning to happen, but it involves a lot of struggle, actually, because the administration actually doesn't understand what is required. And they feel that it can be treated in the same manner that they would treat the other disciplines. So there's a lot of conflict. And it's also a pity that, what is also beginning to happen is that the earlier art schools, which were built by the British, most of them, which had these like extensive workshop facilities and so on, they're coming to think of it now, they were wonderful. Because of the kind of workshops and, I mean, and the sort of freedom that we had to sort of practice in different workshops at different times and so on. Whereas now it's much more regulated. And I don't know whether that's a good, I mean, on the one hand, it's a good thing. On the other hand, there could be a problem. It depends on the faculty, whether we are able to inhabit a space and to be, to retain a certain autonomy within that space through a process of mutual understanding between the faculty, which we have managed to do. But it might not be possible in many other institutions, So it's a complicated thing to.
I know, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Sangeeta, do you want to respond before? Okay.
Okay, let me try. See, one of the things which we have been trying is this kind of in the school level. If it is the teacher training, and we have been trying of giving training to teachers for what is possible with drama or with theater, what can be done, and to every subject, how it can be taught through role playing to activities to all different, how you make your chapters and into modules, and then how do you do it, so, and how you integrate the whole, and how do you bring certain aspects of the modules through a singing, and so it goes into it through painting, through, so this could be something which can be developed further. And it's also the way how we look at pedagogy in the higher education. This is something which we have to also rethink about it, how if in schools there are countries which are quite successfully applying these things, so, and we can also do it because we are much more like in another sense, yeah, and also rich with all different kinds of diversity and the arts and the kind of arts which we have, the painting onwards, all those things. So, but then in the higher education, it has to be much more imaginative, and it has to go into. So probably that is something which we can discuss further and see.
Absolutely. Sangeeta, do you want to talk a bit about?
You know, I was there for the previous sessions, and I just want to say this: no, these things, but no hard feelings. But when they were talking about liberal arts, and then they said the usual thing is sciences and all that, and then so let's talk about social science. So arts was not even featured. Arts was like down there. Yeah. Nobody even mentioned arts. I just noticed that. So that's the problem again, right? So, can you hear me? Yeah. So, can I give an example of what? Of course, I'm a Carnatic musician, like I was reiterating again and again, but there is a lot of confusion in my head right now in my journey where I stand, where, you know, we're revisiting this whole idea of whether, you know, this whole thing of being a Carnatic music like a high art, and this whole thing of low art and folk and classical. So we are going through all these things. So we have been doing a lot of, engaging with a lot of social, what do you call it, cultural activism, if I can call it that. So part of that was, one of those, so we've been having these viras, Uru Alkotkupam Vira, which we do in Chennai every year. One of the offshoot programs of that was in a school called Avai Home in Chennai, which is largely like a public school. And it's a school for girls, all girls school. Anga vande, we thought we'll work with them, like a workshop, for teaching Parai. Parayatam kathu kodukradhukku. Adula the problem, for those who don't know, Parai is usually played by a particular community much lower in the ladder in society, and it is also looked down upon by, you know, people do, everybody doesn't know, many people don't even know what Parai is in the urban, in places like Chennai and all. They don't know what Parayatam, they may never heard it in their lives. But now things are changing, of course. So, and also the other thing, the stigma which is associated with is girls don't play. They don't play Parai. So we thought we will subvert that, and we went to Avai Home School and did a workshop with them. And the Avai Home School for girls has mainly children coming from broken backgrounds, broken families, and many of them, you know, they're orphans. So there's a boarding there, so they stay there. So the response was tremendous, and we had like so many people came forward saying that they want to learn, and we know we had kind of weed them and then said we kind of took 20 girls and trained them. And it was actually originally done for a part of a program which we had in our Vida, right? For 3 months. The girls took to it so much that we said, why don't we make it a permanent thing? So we have got a very good teacher who came 2 days a week, and this has been going on for 5-6 years now, and 3 sets of children have come out. They've passed out also 12th, so they'll start learning from 7th or 8th and go through these two classes a week for 1.5 hours to 2 hours every class. And they've gone and participated in competitions, district level. And see, this is very important for schools, you know, the structures there. In Tamil Nadu, a lot of these competitions happen district level and all that, and they've gone there and won prizes. And the confidence of these girls, I mean, it's tremendous to see them, you know, they're so proud, they feel so confident. It's done a lot to, so this whole thing of, so why I'm saying this is not to, you know, not to feel good. It's not like a feel good thing I'm saying here, just to reiterate that. It's that how, again, they were talking earlier sessions, how it's intangible, how art can, you know, influence and make, play such an important role in a healthy society. simple. I mean, to get you better humans and culture. Somebody was talking about cultural dialogues. All this is not there today. And one more thing I want to say. This is our way home. I can also give you an example of you were talking about case schools, but there also the same problem exists. Like she was rightly saying, there's one event in the year. I mean, the children are clueless about the arts. There's nothing there which is taught. Sadly, I mean, so recently I had a small. Sorry, it'll take 2 minutes. I had a. Both my children went to a case school, and I had a small this thing which I participated there. They wanted me to teach one. I taught a section of students for a bigger program, and each and many artists like me were called, and each came with a different. So one was a dancer, so I was asked to teach music, and I was given this. The whole school was involved in this program basically, and it's a small school. So I was given this set of 12 students, or 12 to 15 students of all. Classes across classes, 6th standard, 12th standard, 10th standard, because everybody had to participate. And they said, make them sing. And I was really like worried, what is going to happen? But, again, sounds feel good, but I have to say this. For 3 or 4, I think 6 months, 4 months we worked on this. It was a Buddha, the story was Buddha. So I said, I was asked to teach them a section. I visualized the whole thing in music. The whole thing was a story which I made them sing. And the whole journey of sitting with them, taking classes and say, you know what, you have no escaping, you have to come and sit here, sing. I remember there was a girl who came and said, Akka, I don't want to sing. I'm not interested. I don't like this singing and all. It's okay, you come and sit here. Then she came and sat because she had no choice, right? And then for some time she just keep quiet. Then after that she slowly started singing. Then slowly started, and then by the end of it, all of them, my God, the perfection with which they presented that whole 20-minute program. I mean, it was amazing to see, and such a satisfaction for me as a who trained them. So these are things which I think, like she's going back to what Vasudha said, if the teachers see the value in these things, and again, I'm reiterating, it can't be like some fun thing which happens in schools. It has to be either, like you were saying, as a tool for other subjects. But again, there it's not very clear, right? That they'll say, oh, and even the maths, let's make maths fun by making music. Okay, that helps to a certain extent. Or you can sing a song and learn some facts on history or something like that. But that's only so much. But art, why can't be taught seriously? Again, I'm asking that question. It should be taught, and I think it is important that it should be. Yeah, so that they may want to become, some people may want to become artists tomorrow. They may want to become a painter. They may want to become a musician. And so that road you have to start laying for them in schools. I won't agree fully with you because I'm saying that in this was a unique program, which is a one-off program. But otherwise also, I am saying even in K schools or even other urban schools, as you say, they can have in-house teach. Why look for somebody from outside? See, in this case, I was somebody who came one-off and that's it. But there can be proper, again, you create an employment for teachers, for the art teachers. So many things happen because of that. And you have proper teachers who are trained for this. To teach that, and then make them a part of, just like a science teacher and a math teacher, you have an art teacher. It doesn't have to be somebody just specially just for that. Again, by doing that, you're saying that, okay, this is something, so it should be like normalized.
Okay. It is just that, it is what you're saying, art for art's sake, is something, definitely it should be there. But what I would like to propose is that art is something which is there in everybody, and that has to be also explored. That has to be given in space, in whichever subject it is or whichever way. That is what we have to find out, other than art for art's sake. Because I'll just give you an example. Recently we did Kila, the institution here, the young scientists, some of them, and drama school students. This was a seminar on theatre and ecology. And then we got a performance maker from Goa. And what he conceived was, because most of them were very busy with apps, different kinds of apps. And we were in this John Mathai Center, which once upon a time, John Mathai had, when he had traveled, he had collected a lot of different kinds of plants from all around the world, and he had planted there. And so we have very rare trees there. Now, this fellow comes and he says that, okay, why not now we make an app which will map out all these trees, and we will find out the genealogy and everything about the tree and how many insects, what all are the birds which keeps the nest, for every tree how much life it is giving and what does it do. And the university is also cutting down trees to build the buildings and everything. So what they could develop was, and also what all are the kinds of, there are certain trees which has like whenever the Theyyam is being visited, they relate with that and they perform. So there are songs with certain trees, there are birds with certain trees. So, and then what they could develop was an app, which is a dating app with tree. So probably what I'm trying to say is that it could be very interesting how we can make the ways and with the youngsters how they are doing, and then you get all the information in that about tree, and then you can, and there are people who spend nearly 4 or 5 hours with a tree. You get a chair or you get a just paya, you can lie down and you can spend, and that's the performance. Tree is actually performing. Yeah, the medium is changing, but you are experiencing the whole thing, and you are giving time for tree. There is nothing known as somebody standing and acting for you. So probably I think we can find out, ways how in higher education we can enter into in different ways.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Samandam sir.
கலை வந்து ஸ்கூல்ஸில் எப்படி சொல்லி கொடுக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கிறத பற்றி பேசிட்டு இருக்கோம். நான் வந்து கலையாக சொல்லிக்கணும் அப்படின்னு
நாங்கள் வந்து இப்போ எங்கள் ஊர் பள்ளிக்கூடம் இருக்குது, +2 வரைக்கும் இருக்குது. போன வருஷத்துக்கு 3 வருஷம் அங்கே இருக்கிற ஸ்டூடெண்ட்டுங்களை அழைச்சி அபிமன்யு அப்படின்னு ஒரு கூத்து சொல்லி கொடுத்தோம். இப்போ வந்து மறுபடியும் இந்த வருஷம் ஆரம்பிக்கலான்னு இருக்கிறேன், அவங்களுக்கு சொல்லி கொடுத்து இது பண்ணுறதுக்காக. அதே மாதிரி தான் இப்போ வந்து என்னன்னாக்கா, அதை வந்து இரவு ஃபுல்லாக நடத்துகிற கூத்துங்களை 1 மணி நேரம் 1.5 மணி நேரமாக சுருக்கி சொல்லி கொடுத்து அவங்களுக்கு வந்து அது மேலே ஒரு விருப்பத்தை உண்டாக்குறதுக்காக செய்கிறோம். இப்போ அதை மாதிரி தான் இப்போ வந்து இது தரணி கூட இப்போ என்ன பண்ணியிருக்குன்னா, ஸ்கூல்களில் போயிட்டு சொல்லி கொடுத்து இது பண்ண போகிற நாடகம் நடத்துகிற மாதிரி. எப்படி பண்ண போகிற சொல்லுப்பா.
We are just planning, because the Kuthu is actually like full night performance from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So we just editing it into like 1.5 hours or 1 hour show. And the idea is to go and perform in schools, not just to say, okay, in a word, there is a form called Kuthu. Instead of that, we just show them this is Kuthu. So we are trying to bring it like 1.5 hours of a show. And we are trying to travel to all the schools to tell them this is a form. Yeah. And also I would like to add one more thing, because why there are so many filmmakers today and why there are no much of theatre makers, less, because there are so many inspiration for filmmakers. Tadiki Ulunda, they have Netflix, so many things to reach out. So they see, they get inspired and they come to that form. So first of all, in theatre, I think there should be so many performance. So if there are so many performance, so many people will see. And when there's so many people see, from that, there will be so many people coming for theatre. So the idea why we are trying to do this, so we have, the ultimate goal is to show as many performances as possible to as many number of students as many as possible, schools levels also. So out of that filter, when we are showing to 1,000 and filtered and at least 10 or 20 people turning into it, it'll be, it's more than enough, I think, right now. So that's what Aya is also doing in his village, like nearby village students, he bring them and give them workshop to inspire them. Okay, this is the form in our village. So now we want to take it out to urban areas also. especially when somebody of you were talking about, some urban people don't know certain things, and maybe they might just seeing in their textbook, and just to show them the real form itself, yeah, experiencing it, yeah, witnessing it, yeah.
Sorry, you mentioned about learning it and becoming a musician, becoming a dancer. I think in some context, I was also just going to ask you to respond a little bit about the even in the teaching of the arts. Um, is there a sort of subtle insistence on them becoming performers? What about actually just what if everyone does not become a performer? What if they just learn arts for just for the sake of the process, for becoming better human beings, all of that? This whole, are we in some sense, is the performance aspect of teaching and training of the arts so um, obvious in a way that it also perhaps intimidates people, and they reach a certain standard and they feel like, I don't think I can become a performer, so I don't need to engage with it anymore? How can we change that, if at all?
Yeah, I think that's where the pressure is also a lot on the students. Depends on the teachers, how they, and I see students buckling under pressure and they say, I don't even want to do anything with this, and walking away also sometimes. And also that's where I think mainstream schools, this whole thing of competitiveness. So sometimes it's also problematic. So you teach, even those who teach art, like you were saying, some of them do not the alternate schools. I'm talking about. So there's so many, like, it's very complicated. I think so many things to just. So there is mainstream schools. There are schools like alternate schools where it's more about sensitizing and all that. And but of course that also comes with other problems. But mainstream schools, this whole thing of competition oriented, so you go get a prize and you go get so that can be also sometimes pressurizing. So though you're learning an art form, it's as bad as learning any other subject, because you have to perform there also and get that prize or win that competition. So those problems are, so again I think it comes back to how the teachers go about the whole thing. Yeah, but I think that's what we're all struggling with. So how do we teach art in schools? So there's one thing is, I think, and again I want to just small thing, I want to just reiterate, art being used as a tool is very important. In fact, I would say that Vidyavanam is the classic example for that, because I've come here millions of times and I've seen them doing, it's not just about that one annual day like we're talking about. They do project day. I remember they had a project day on rice. And it was not just about collecting different, they had done some lot of brilliant stuff the children had done, but they also had sung songs with, connected with rice. You did a play on rice, exactly. Dharani did a play on rice. All this is stuck in my memory. So you can imagine how much it has impacted those children. They'll never forget it all their life. So I'm sure they'll know all those some 10 varieties of rice. They can just reel out like that, which I can't. So this whole thing of tools is very important. But I think the larger, so that is happening to a certain extent, right? This whole, today that awareness has come, art can be used as a tool. It seems to be happening in pockets. I don't know, I may be wrong. I'm not much into education side, so I don't know. Schools. But I think that people are using it. I think even the Tamil Nadu government is trying to do something in a big way. Like, I saw the textbooks. I was involved a bit in that. Textbooks where on the Silapathi Karampati, or on the or some subject, science subject na andha edathila where you can teach a song which is relevant to that. Something is crept into the syllabus at least. How much is being imparted, I don't know. But again, coming back to the others, challenging question of how to incorporate this in the curriculum. I think that's the challenge, and that's where I think the teachers have to be sensitized. Some kind of a serious. I don't know, some structure has to be formed. And then again, there's another complication there. What kind of art forms you teach them? So, away home girls took to Pariyatam like that, and they were brilliant at it. I can't go and say, I'm going to teach you Carnatic music. It doesn't make sense. Similarly, I can't, so this whole thing of, it has to be relevant to the space where you're offering the art. I don't know.
Yes, I was going to ask you that. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Just a few images. Is it working? Yeah. Okay, a few images from a project that I undertook way back in 2002, soon after Godhra. And it was a very extended project. It was like a project with many little sub-projects which happened under its broader kind of umbrella. Hello. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I worked with 6 girls who belonged to families that were affected during the massacre at Narura Patya on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. So, I mean, it's a long story as to how I even got there in the first place. It involved a lot of research and a lot of meeting many people and legal action cells, etc., etc. And then I found 2 social activists, Monica Wahi and Zaid Ahmed Sheikh, who were kind of, who had initiated and sort of supported a small collective which was formed by women widows from Naroda Patya, actually. They had set up a kind of a sewing unit in Batwa, which is again like, on the outskirts of Ahmedabad. And I worked with their children. So to start with, it was like a series of workshops. And I took them to the Kanoria Arts Center, and they became part of the, Festival of the Arts, which takes place there every year. So they, they were enrolled in different workshops, one of them in the batik workshop, some in the Madhubani painting workshop, etc., etc. So basically, I was using whatever resources were available. One wasn't being too puristic about, the form, because I don't think we had the luxury or the time to kind of think along those lines. And then some very simple, exercises in visualization, in drawing, observation, painting, etc. And I think this is also very, I think something that we forget is also that, like for instance, 4 of the girls were illiterate and had no intention of going to school. 2 of them dropped out of school. Then how do you then teach them from a textbook? So the image becomes a very, very useful tool, to do this. And it was not only about the image, there were many, many other things that happened, including theater. We also worked with Soumya Joshi's troupe. There was this Prem actor who came down and taught the kids. So then we kind of worked with the people from Vedchi Ashram. There was this Binu who came down and put up this bamboo structure for us. There were architects, friends of mine who designed the structure. And we did it with a very minimal budget of 15,000 rupees or something like that. So over 10 days, this thing was built, and we had the classes, in that place. And, of course, there was always a lot of skepticism from their mothers. Ye log kya kar rahe hain,
Can you hear me? Yeah. No, see, you're talking about the other art, like he was saying, there's an artist in all of us. So, but this is not, we're talking a little more seriously, we're not talking about, we're all artists, yes, that's there, but we're talking about incorporating art in education, in schools, how is it relevant and all that. So when you talk about, and when I was talking about my own example of teaching Carnatic music, and I think that's true of any art form, whether it's visual art or Bharatanatyam or Terukuthu, this is the exact problem. You think that it's just there, anybody can just learn the art. It's not like that. There is a structure there. Just like how you have a structure of learning theorems, addition, subtraction, multiplication. A, B, C, D, you will form words. So there is grammar and everything, yeah. Art also is very serious. It's not something which is, again, that's the problem. You look at it as ellarum paadrale, paadra. Shruti la chend paadnum theriyuma. There's something called Shruti. அதே மாதிரி பரதநாட்டியம்ல அடவு வைக்கணும்னா that line has to be formed. So that's what the teacher insists, that you form the line. Now you are getting scared because you look at that's a different topic altogether. Let's not getting into all that. Carnatic music is very complicated. That's the problem. So that's the problem that I'm also facing. I'm also dealing with all those complexities of it's being projected as an elitist art form, whereas a folk is a very casual thing, which is not so. தெருக்கூத்துலயே எவ்வளோ அடவெல்லாம் இருக்கு இல்லையா சார்? அவ்வளோ ஈஸியாக கற்றுக்க முடியாது இல்லையா தெருக்கூத்து? Which I discovered in my journey. So that's the other problem there, which is also exists, that people run away from these so-called elitist art forms because they are made to be look as so scary and only one bunch of people can perform Carnatic music. That's the other problem there. That's another discussion. We're not going into that now. But having said that, I'm just talking with respect to art. Whether it's a visual art form, whether it's painting, the student has to know And again, I'm talking about somebody who wants to learn art in a serious way. You can get your child to go and draw whatever you want. You can look at a line of ants going so beautiful, they're in a perfect line. That's art. Yes, it is art. I'm not saying no. But I'm talking about looking at art as a serious engagement.
சொன்னதா, அதாவது கூத்தில் ஒரு பாட்டு இருக்கு. தாத்தாளம் சுத்தி தந்தை சங்கீதமும் தூமத்தல தம்பூரு தமயனார் தூ தே தை தோ தௌ தத்தி திமியன மார்கர் வந்தாரே இதோ சண்டா மார்கர் வந்தார். அவர் ஆசிரியர். அது வந்து இதுக்குன்னா அந்த அந்த இது இருந்தால் தான் பண்ண முடியும் அப்படின்றது இலக்கணம்.
இது என்ன பாட சொன்னா எனக்கு பாட முடியாது. நான் கர்நாடக கலைஞன் தான். ஆனால் எனக்கு ஒன்றுமே புரியல அவர் சொன்னது. அவ்வளோ கஷ்டம் அது.
தா தாளம் தா வந்து சொன்ன தாளம் அந்த எழுத்துக்கு தா தாளம் சுத்தி தந்தை சங்கீதமும் தூ மத்தல தம்பூரு தமயனார் தூ தே அப்புறம் எழுத்துல போகுது. அந்த சங்கீதத்துக்கு என்னென்ன இருக்குது, அதற்கு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டுங்கள் என்ன இருக்குது, அதெல்லாம் பாட்டு.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for sharing such fascinating insights. This is a topic that one could keep talking about, and but I think we must keep talking about it, because only if we talk, some solutions will perhaps come by. Thank you so much, Vidyavanam, for curating this session and for inviting us. See you all after lunch. Okay. Oh, we have another lunch. Sorry. I thought this was because everybody was getting hungry or something. Okay, so sorry. I'm so sorry this session took. Yeah, thank you.